know what Ruben said last time about, pausing and taking enough time to, to really, listen and, try to get answers and things like that was really helpful, because it's the same thing. It's like basketball officiating. It's like baseball umpiring. They say, wait a second, wait just one more second before you blow the whistle. Because if you go up and the shot's blocked and you blow the whistle, it's like, oh, he blocked that. Like, that wasn't a foul. So you kind of have to give it, make sure you see what you see, and then, half a second or whatever. So it's good about taking your time. It's very applicable. So it's good.
I love that. I think all officials should take that advice.
See, I officiated in college too. Like, I've done Division II in Pennsylvania way back, and this is one way back. But they would actually say to you, like during the training, they would say, swallow your whistle. Like, don't come out and be in a big hurry to do things and make an impact. And no, just wait a second or two, make sure it's the right thing, make sure you saw what you saw, and then, go from there. And, and I got that, coaching is sort of the same thing. Like, make sure you don't, mistake, error, come on. It's the same, give it a second. They don't need to jump on people right away for making errors. But speaking of which, I talked to Dave Allen yesterday.
Okay.
He's going to call me back tonight, because we have the thing tomorrow at Oxford. And I think he wanted, we both sort of wanted clarification about what to do, if anything, to watch, to be observing. I told him, I said, really, I just want to stay out of the way. Like, I wanted you to do your thing. If you want me to do something, I can. If you wanted me to, I'm comfortable just watching. That's fine with me. I really don't care. It doesn't really matter. He said, well, let's touch base tonight. Maybe talk to Callie, whoever, and he said we'll come up with a plan. So I mean, we're kind of in a fluid mode right now in terms of flexibility about what we can do or we could do. I guess it's really up to kind of you guys and maybe him a little bit as to what he wants to do. Because like I said, I kind of want to stay out of his way and make sure it comes off, fine. But I'll let that up to, whoever the decision makers are, and I'm fine, with whatever's decided. So.
Yes. So what I think would be the best thing, the workshop that Dave is doing at 10 a.m. is a different athlete workshop than you're doing the following day.
That's what I gathered. Yes. I think you told me. Okay.
Yes. So I think it would be best, since you're not familiar with that workshop, I don't want to confuse you because you're going to be doing a different workshop the next day. I think it would be best if you just watch Dave and just, take notes, pick up things on his timing, his questioning, how he engages the kids. It's nice to have no pressure on you to not worry about, oh my gosh, I have to go next, or what am I going to say? So I think that would be the most helpful thing to do. And then for the coach workshop after that, that's what you can talk to Dave about tonight. I think it would be great if you two split it in half. So if you did, have Dave open it up, and you can do the emotional tank and Elm Shave Mastery, and Dave can close it up with honoring the game.
Good.
That's sort of a nice flow to do it that way.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
And I think the following day with Abby as well, when you're going to be co-facilitating with Abby, I think, Abby's a really great person to watch because she's really into group activities. And I just love getting ideas from Abby also. So that's why I think it would be great also if you could watch her for a little bit and kind of share that. Did you touch base with Abby already?
She's been out and I've been in, and we just haven't connected. I mean, I have her phone number. We've emailed a couple times, like 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
But I'm sure like tonight we'll get together and we'll make it happen. But the good thing about Wednesday is I know these kids. Like, I know all of them. Like, I probably coached most of them. I've seen them all play. So the familiarity will be fine, amongst the Guilford people.
Right.
But, like I said, I'm happy just to watch that one too and just be, I really like watching, to be honest with you. Like, I like taking notes because I think I'm a pretty good note taker and a pretty good observer of things. So the more notes that I have and the people that I watch, I think is almost better than, hey, jump in, experiment, and figure out what to do. And okay, but it's also good just to watch it and get a feel, and it's different watching it, I think, on video, just the dynamic of the room and how the pauses are and how everybody kind of interacts and interrelates and all those kind of things. So I'd like to not only watch the presenter, but observe everything else too that's going on, which I think would be better.
I'm all for that as well. I think the request for you to do that, the workshops, do more of the workshops, was just because you are familiar with the organization. But I'm all for you watching and observing as much as you can, because at this stage in the process, it's pretty early on for you to be doing a lot of the workshop yourself. So I think it'd be great for you to observe.
Perfect. Yep, I'm very, very good with that. And like I said, I'll take good notes and talk with them afterwards and get some feedback from them and whatever. So yeah, I think that's great.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like Joe's having some connection issues. So if you want to just jump in.
I'll just start. Yeah, I'll just
have it recorded so they can all watch it as Beth comes in and Joe comes in. We'll have it there for them.
Okay.
So.
All right, very good. I'll go from current slide. Go to the next one. Okay.
Great.
Okay, so now we're on to the Elm Tree of Mastery. We've covered E-Tank, and now we're on to principle number 2. And we're going to start this section by playing a little Family Feud. A little Family Feud. We have the top 3 answers are on the board behind me. And here is the question. There were actually surveyed 500 psychologists. What is the number 1 question, or what is the question that parents most ask when their kid walks through the door at the end of a youth game? Conclusion of the game, they walk through the door. What do parents ask their kid? 500 psychologists surveyed.
I'm going to say, did you win?
Did you win? Bingo, number 1 answer. Very good. Okay, number 1. Very good. Okay, so did you win? Okay. Anybody have any idea about the other 2? 500 psychologists surveyed. What is the question that parents most ask their child when they walk in the door from a game, from a youth game?
Are you hungry?
You know what I'm going to do with that one? And so that's an X. I always wanted to do that, actually. That's kind of fun. To really, it doesn't help your E-Tank, but that's okay. That's all right.
How about did you score, or how did you play?
How did you score? How many points did you score? Very good. That's number 2. And how did you play? Number 3. That's exactly right. Unfortunately, number 3, how did you play, is actually very far down the list. The number 1 answer by far was, did you win? Did your team win? Did you win? And number 2 is, how many points did you score? So these are things that I think as parents and coaches, so we have to educate our parents and tell them, and tell your players also, hey, the scoreboard is only one small ingredient of what we're trying to accomplish this year. Yes, we're playing to win. We're trying to win. But we're also here to learn about the game, and to learn about, you can't tell your players, but learn about life lessons, but that's what we're going to teach, as coaches, all right? The scoreboard mentality, or the scoreboard definition, as you saw in the first 2 examples of what parents ask their kids, this is not, there are 2 conflicting ideas here. So when coaches, when you coach, and you volunteered, all of you volunteer here, to coach during the course of the season. Why did you sign up to coach? Why? Why do you want to coach? Why do you want to coach this season? Go ahead, yes.
I want to coach because I really love the sport, and I would like to help the kids appreciate the sport, but also learn how to work hard and learn how to have fun and get some exercise and just grow.
That's exactly what I think. That's what most people in here would want to do. I think if you ask your players, they want to play because it's fun, as was mentioned. They want to get together with their friends, which was also mentioned. Have a team, be part of the team, be with their friends. At no point in any of our answers, or in any of what the kids had to say about why they play, is winning. I want to win a championship. I didn't hear that. kids that are 6th graders, 7th graders. I'm signing up to play basketball this year because I want to win a championship. No, that's not why they play. They play because it's fun. It's the scoreboard mentality and that win-at-all-cost coaching mentality that if you're coaching because you want to win a championship, you should not be here, because you should be coaching because we heard it, because you love the game, you want to help kids get better, those sorts of things. And that's what we're going to talk about with mastery, and that's why we're here as part of PCA and being a double goal coach. Again, scoreboard's important, but there are other things that are much more important. So as we talk about the scoreboard, you can see what the headings are underneath as far as what that is in terms of how it's judged. Are we better than the other team today? Did we win? Obviously, that's from the scoreboard itself. Mistakes, well, I wish we wouldn't have made as many mistakes. As a coach, you're going to say that if you lost by 10 or lost by 20. But look at the other side. These are things that are almost intangibles when you talk about effort. And that's not just physical effort, that's mental effort. Talk about learning. We don't care about the score today. When we think about winning and losing, that's just about today. We won today, we lost today. Okay, that only goes, so far, but let's build. Whether we win or lose, we can build on it. We can learn. We can develop as a team. It's going to be a long season. We're more interested in the learning part of it rather than the comparisons of right now and of today. And mistakes, we're going to say mistakes are okay. There are tools we're going to give you that make kids, it gives them relief that, okay, I can go out and experiment with some things. Now I work on my left-handed layup. I don't have to worry about making it in a game all the time. I can try to experiment with it under pressure and to see if it works. It gives kids a lot of freedom and lowers their anxiety. It makes them feel better about the game and about each other. When we talk about mistakes, I coached at Penn State for 12 years. I coached for 10 years with the men, 2 years with the women. I want you to write down on your paper a number. How many mistakes are made during the course of an average Big Ten conference basketball game? Men's basketball game, Big Ten conference, how many mistakes are made? Now, I'm not talking just about turnovers, okay? Be careful with the wording here. I'm talking about mistakes. So it could be a missed rotation. It could be a missed block out. It could be a guy didn't know where he was going on a certain play. It could be they didn't hedge on a ball screen, things like that. Throw out some numbers to me. Let me hear what you think. How many?
Are you saying per player?
No, as a team, grand total.
Oh.
Grand total mistakes.
I would say 100 at least.
100 at least. Anybody else?
I'm going to say more. I'm going to say more than that.
Okay, 300. Okay,
yeah.
500.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. I used to grade those games. On average, the average now is 400 mistakes. There were 400 mistakes that are made. And here's how you can kind of figure it out too. In the course of a game, a college game, you have 100 possessions. 50 on offense, 50 on defense. On average, again, there are about 4 mistakes that are made per possession. So, like I said, we have a missed block out, we have a missed rotation, miscommunication, okay? Those mistakes add up pretty fast. So there can be 4 mistakes on average per possession. That's 400 during the course of a game. That's a lot of mistakes. And as coaches, unfortunately, we became very good at pointing those mistakes out and showing players, hey, we're making a ton of errors, we're making a ton of mistakes, we got to get better. And at the end of this long sheet that we had, where we graded players individually, at the end of the sheet, we gave them a numerical grade, just like in school. And ironically, it became what would be judged as a failing grade. So guys are getting the 60s or the 50s or 60s again. That's an F. That's a failing grade in school. It's a failing grade for us. We almost couldn't put these guys on the floor. So they would come to us and say, what do I have to do here? It's a lot of pressure out there. And then that's when the that's when the light bulb went off. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure out there because we as coaches are only recognizing mistakes. So then we started to evolve our formula to make it work so that the anxiety went down, that we're okay to make mistakes if they were effort plays, which was okay. And then we gave credit for effort. And sometimes we give 2 extra points if a guy dove on the floor, if he drew a charge, if he did something for a teammate where he helped a teammate up, if he got people organized in a huddle. All the little things that we used to overlook all of a sudden now became very magnified, and our players played great. They played great. They were on the floor. They were diving for balls because this system meant a lot to them. This rating system meant a lot because they wanted to know how to get better. It's just like any other player. They want to know how to improve. So this grading system, which we kind of thought was just sort of for us as coaches, we can grade guys. They wanted to know. Like they wanted to know at the end, hey, how did I do? Then we started adding points to the effort plays, and the mistakes were okay. They started over time to understand, hey, if I help a guy up, I'm going to get credit for that. Or if I get somebody in a huddle, I'm going to get credit for that. It helped, and we played the guys who gave us effort and who learned from their mistakes and realized that mistakes were okay. So recognizing effort, recognizing that people are going to play hard and make mistakes sometimes, know that as a coach and explain that to your team. Tell that to your team all the time. Hey, mistakes are okay. Mistakes are fine. We'll live with mistakes, especially on effort plays. If you're running down the court fast, something happens, okay, that's all right. We're going to recognize that you ran down the court. Yeah, we might have a turnover, okay, but we want you to continue to run down the court every time and try to make plays. So research shows, again, with mastery, we talk about winning at all costs versus learning, and mistakes are okay, and effort. Research shows what's going to go in the blank. Anxiety goes, and self-confidence goes where?
Up.
Up. Or anxiety goes down, confidence goes up. Absolutely right. Which only makes sense. And again, the only way this works, coaches, is if you continually reinforce this. This has to be part of your culture. This has to be part of what you do every day, and you have to believe in it, and you have to convey that to your players. Again, mastery gives a feeling of control. We can't control the score. We can't control the outcome of games. We can't control how many points we score. The first 2 answers in our family feud, we can't control any of that. The players can't control any of that. Well, coaches, we can't control that either. But we can definitely control how much effort we put into the game and how much effort. And again, remember, as a coach, you can recognize things of the smallest detail and convey that to your players. And if they see that's important to you, they're going to do it more. When we talk about people like Joe Madden, who manages the Chicago Cubs, Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors, Pete Carroll with the Seattle Seahawks, they will all say, we don't care about your system. We don't care about what plays you run. We don't care if you shift against this guy in baseball. What we want to know is, what's your culture like? Do you reward leadership? Do you reward effort? Do you reward people who are going to make plays but make mistakes and tell them that that's okay? And these are the top managers and top coaches in their field, but we're talking about working harder, sticking with it longer. That happens at the professional level too. Minutia, details. They all say in their own way, do the little things better. Do the little things correctly. Do the details. Do the smallest parts of the game as best you can. So that might, in basketball, that might mean being in your stance. It might be a triple threat when you're on offense, bending down, running hard. If you recognize that as a coach and convey that to your team, that that's important to you, they're going to do it every time. So we have a scenario. Teams play tentatively and let the opponent drive the action. What can you do? I'm going to give you a scenario that happened at Penn State and see if this will click. And then I want to hear from you and see if we can share some scenarios ourselves from the other coaches here. Whenever we went on the road to play, whether it was Ohio State, Michigan State, these teams, that's a problem for us because they play great at home. Always going to be an issue with the start of the game. The first 5 or 10 minutes is going to be a problem. Invariably, we would go into all these venues, we would prepare, we would have a game plan, everything would be structured, everybody would know exactly what to do. 4 minutes into the game, you look up, we're down 12-2. So at the 15-minute timeout, the first media timeout, everybody's come over to the bench. Everybody, their eyes are this big around. The crowd is so loud you can hardly hear yourself think. And they need some advice. And they're looking to you for advice. I'll let you, what can you say to them? What can you say? 12-2, 5 minutes into the game, Breslin Center is going crazy. We can barely hear, so whatever you say better be short and quick. What can you tell my Penn State team to make it all okay?
I can tell them to, I would probably just help rally the guys to pump each other up because, it's hard when you're on the road and you've got the opponents, the away bench screaming at you and everybody's screaming at you. So I'd probably just, remind them that they've got to support each other and focus a lot on each other and probably just keep pumping them up and reminding them what they do well, just over and over. This is our game. Don't worry about the competition. Just focus on what we do well as a team.
Precisely. We might all get in a big huddle and squeeze it in real tight because we can't hear. And we would say, look, fellas, it's just us. And we're only playing against those 5 guys. We're not playing against the crowd. It's just our 5 against their 5. Go do what we practiced. It'll be fine. We'll be okay. The other thing we might do is, we might tell them a joke. We might tell them a joke. We might say something to the effect of, hey, listen, guys, it can't get any worse. Okay, we're down 12-2. We can't score. We can't play defense. We can't rebound. And we can barely bring the ball across half court. It can't get any worse than this. How about if we just get it across half court, all of us over here will jumping up and down and cheer, and that would be one of our small victories. So not only do we tell them to stick together, as we talked about, we're also telling them, most importantly, don't look at the scoreboard. Don't look at the scoreboard. Don't worry about the score. We don't have a play in our playbook that can get us 10 points in one possession. It doesn't exist. And if it does, I wish some of you would come up and tell me that because I've been missing out for a long time. I could have used that a long time ago, a 10-point basketball possession. That'd be great. They don't exist. They don't exist. So what we say to them is, don't look at the scoreboard. Play one possession at a time. It's all cliches. It's a cliche. One possession at a time. One good shot at a time. But if that's part of your culture and you guys believe in that, they'll know what you're saying is true. They'll buy into it because believe me, we've been in this situation before. We've been behind. Let's just chip away. Let's just cut it. By the time we get to our next TV timeout in 4 minutes, let's cut their lead instead of by 10. Let's cut it to 6. Well, let's cut it to 7. Let's kind of nick away. But don't go out, fellas, and don't be frightened. Don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. This is not life or death. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are okay. And again, if this is part of your culture, this is part of what you do. And again, we talk about culture. We've said that kind of over and over again. You're going to have a culture whether you like it or not. You're going to have a culture of it's either going to be real good, it's going to be bad, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. But it's going to be what you convey to your team and what they believe that you're saying. And again, it's not related to basketball like we talked about before. They just want to know that you care. And when we're in that huddle with 16,000 people screaming against us, you better believe they need to know you care at that point. If you don't care about them, the words you say are just really blah, 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 blah. They're not listening to any of it, and you're going to have some problems. Okay? So we've talked about effort being the key to performance. We've talked about assertive play when it comes to fear. There's no mistakes. These can all be found in the book on the pages that are here. Becoming a noticer. That's what our problem was at Penn State for not a long time, but a while. We were doing the effort plays. We just didn't convey that enough to our team that was important to us. But that's more important than scoring. Sometimes that's more important than your system that you run and your offenses and your defenses. Notice the little things that they do. Notice the huddles. Notice that they're making eye contact with each other. They believe in each other on the court. That really goes a long way, and it really helped us become a very good team. With mistakes, at Penn State, we used to run by guys. We have to tap them on the back to say we got your back. We didn't know that it was like a mistake ritual like they have here in Positive Coaching Alliance. But this idea of flushing a mistake, which kids love, by the way. I mean, they love to flush toilets. And so if you have a group of like 6 or 7, 7th grade boys, they'll be flushing all the time. They like to hear that sound. Whoosh, you'll hear a bunch of guys do it. But that's okay. That's fine. That's okay for them to do that. But you can brush it off. Julie Fowley has a rubber band that she snaps to snap her back into reality or snap out of it. This whole idea of a mistake ritual is you're moving on to the next play. Move on to the next play. Move on to the next play. Forget about what just happened. We're moving on. See what Curtis Granderson had to say about that.
Baseball definitely has a lot of feel. Just trying to find a way. Also, those highs. We gotta get.
It's kind of interesting in baseball, too. This will be the last thing. In baseball, you can be a Hall of Fame player batting 300. If you bat 300, you're in the Hall of Fame. And what that means is, does anybody know what that means in terms of baseball? How many times out of 10 you get a hit? Yeah, 3. So 3 out of 10 times you get a hit, you're in the Hall of Fame. But that also means 7 times you failed. 7 times you failed to get a hit. And some guys go on streaks where they don't hit the ball for a while, but then they go 5 for 5. But on average, a 300 hitter is in the Hall of Fame. So that gives you kind of a perspective on how mistakes, you can turn mistakes into be something that's very positive.
All right.
20 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So you've been through almost the whole workshop.
I'll tell you, this is really fun. I really had fun with this. I mean, this is really great. Just trying to figure out questions, involvement, more audience participation. How can we get them involved? How can we get them to think? That sort of thing. So it's
so how do you think you did time compared to times before?
Better. I mean, way better. It's more of a discussion. It's more of a discussion than it is a lecture. I think I pointed here a couple times just to kind of get it, not just to buy some time, but I wanted to try to think of a question I was going to ask the audience as I kind of turned away just to think about what my next point was going to be. But I think instead of it's just like coaching, it's just like basketball, it's like anything else. I got the focus off of me and I got the focus on them. So when I thought about them asking questions and them being involved, that got my mind actually thinking about what proper question or what thing to do next versus, hey, I got to follow this. I got to think about what I'm going to do. And thinking about me is not the case all the time. You can think about your audience more and think, okay, well, they haven't said anything in a while and they haven't thought about anything in a while. We got to get them integrated into the mix here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think you did better. I still think there's more you can do. For example, the one part when you said about the scenario and you said, I love the way you set us up. I like your Penn State stories. I think they were great to connect you to what we were doing. I found them to be really, interesting. And I thought that was very cool. The one scenario slide that went up when you said, let me tell you this from a coach's point of view. I think that was a great way to start it out because you told, the road, we're against Ohio State, we're against Michigan State. I think that's great because you made it real. And then you said, we'll ask you what you're going to do later. And, you didn't really give us a chance. Yeah, you didn't give us a chance to think about it with our team. But that's, that could just be a brain fart that happens sometimes too.
Yeah,
just to make sure that you let me think about that, because I'm not coaching Penn State. I'm coaching 8-year-old basketball players. You know what I mean? So I think bringing that, letting me take the tools and the example. So for the tools too, the becoming a noticer, rewarding effort, mistake ritual. You told us a lot about what you did, but I want the coaches to practice thinking about what they do.
Right.
So what does effort look like on your 8-year-old basketball team?
Yep.
What kind of a mistake ritual could you use? I love that you brought up the example, Christian. You said, at Penn State, we got your back. Like, I think that's awesome. Then we saw the Curtis Granderson. What do you think would work on my youth soccer team or my youth swim team? Because if the coaches, and this is just for retention purposes, if the coaches don't get a chance at the workshop to actually think about something concrete that they're going to do, they're not going to use it. It's too much information. So, I have them do a mistake ritual, shake it off, brush it off, whatever it is. I just did a workshop last week and I said, okay, rewarding effort, especially unsuccessful effort. All right. And I showed them and I said, okay, it was soccer. And I said, I just ran down the field. The ball came at me. I headed it right. It was like a beautiful header. I was wide open and it went right over top of the net. I want you to turn to the person next to you and I want you to show me, I want you to reward the effort, not the outcome, because the outcome was it went over the net. I didn't score. Most coaches will point out, all the things I did wrong. I want you to point out all the things I did right. Turn to a partner and tell them 3 things that I did correctly that you would reward me for. And, the whole room erupts in loud, praise. And I said, how many of us, that would be the first thought on our mind? No, most of us point out, as you even said, Christian, most of us point out the mistakes. We spend so much time saying, oh, the angle was wrong. They didn't have the back in the right position. They didn't get in front of the defender. We always look for the negative. But when I actually had them practice, here's a scenario. I'm flying at you. What would you say? Turn to somebody and say, what would you say to reward what I did well? It got them talking and practicing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
Really.
So that's what we mean by, because those yellow flags that come out, those are the party gifts. Like, those are the gifts that we're giving these coaches to go out and use. That's the reason they came to this workshop. They want to hear your stories. They want to buy into positivity. They want to hear the research behind it. But really what they want is they want to know those yellow toolkit things that are flying in from the side. Those are the tools. Those are, okay, what can I do to be better? And that's it right there. So that's like gold. I always say they fly in yellow and think about
Yeah. Good. That's good. That's good.
Anytime you see one of those little flags flying in, that means that is a takeaway. And the only way a coach is going to remember how to use it is if they practice it in a workshop and and they own it.
Yep.
So, your stories are great. I loved your stories. I thought, how many mistakes are made in a game. I thought that was a great portion to put into this. And I took a lot of notes there. So if I were in your workshop, I'd be like, wow, 400 mistakes a game. Like, that's kind of crazy. But then when you said, I was actually keeping track of all the mistakes. And then I just love the way you said, we got really good at pointing out the mistakes. And we realized that's a lot of pressure. I just think that's a great story. That was probably my favorite part of what you did. And then you gave examples, then we turned it around and started giving players credit for diving for balls and, all those things.
About that too. Like, what would you give as effort plays? Like, even in your own team, like as 6th and 7th grade, 5th grade coaches, what would be an effort play?
And even if you have a room of all basketball coaches, split them into groups according to what age they're coaching, because 8-year-old effort's going to look different than 16-year-old effort. So, get into groups according to what age you coach. 8-year-olds over here, you 10 over here, you 12 over here. And as a group, I want you to come up with 5 things that you would be looking for if you were rewarding effort, not pointing out the mistakes, and have them come up with 5 things and then have them share. That's where they actually are like, wow, this is a good question. How would I do that?
Yeah.
So just take your story and use that story to launch an activity. And it is effort. It takes effort. My workshop last week, I had 50 coaches in a room. They didn't really want to get up and move around. They didn't really feel like getting in a corner. It would take a few extra minutes. But at the end of the workshop, I just have these are all the evaluations that I just got back from all the coaches at my workshop. And I'd say more than half of them say the best part of the workshop was interacting with other coaches. Because that's what they want to do. They said examples. They said the videos. They like the videos. And the energy of the presenter, a lot of them put down. And then they said interacting with other coaches. So that's, even though it's effort and they don't really feel like they want to get up and talk to a partner, they actually do because they remember it.
Yep.
So I think the next step for you, again, as you said, I'm glad that you're set up to do this tomorrow and the next day. And, you know, it's interesting too, because and you're going to see Dave and Abby are very different in the way they facilitate a workshop. Dave is much more of a talker and Abby's much more of a doer. Okay. And I think you're somewhere in between. So I think that it'll be good for you to see Dave and how he questions, and it'll be great for you to see Abby because she gets people up and moving and, you know, doing lots of that. Yep. So I think it'll be good for you to take a little bit of what Dave does and a little bit of what Abby does and figure out what works for you and what you do well, and just, you know, come up with your own type of facilitation, which I think is great.
So do you have different things that you do for, I mean, it's almost like a scouting report for teams. I mean, some teams are going to be great on defense, some are great on offense, some are going to run fast breaks, some of them aren't. Like, do you think about your audience beforehand and say, okay, I have to do more movement with this group, maybe because you've had them before, and this group is going to be more sedentary, and this group is going to do this? You know, do you have like an idea of, or do you have a template that you kind of branch off of? You know, I'm not asking it the right way, but do you have like a standard presentation that you do, and you sort of go by the room and then branch off and do different things? Or do you say, you know, oh, this is a new group, mostly young coaches, okay, I'm gonna get up and move them around, I'm gonna do different things with them, versus what I did, you know, like last week where it was maybe different in another way? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have every single coach in the room get up and moving around within 5 minutes. Okay. I think it's so important. It's funny because the workshop I did last week was a double goal coach 1 workshop, and it's been a while since I've done the job. And I actually, I brought my daughter's friend to videotape it for me. So I do have a videotape, and I'm trying to download it to get it to be used so you can see the interaction that I do. Yep. But I get every voice in the room up and moving around the room within 5 minutes. And I leave them up there for a little while, and then I'll have them sit back down for a little bit and we'll do some discussion. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll have them turn to a partner and share. So the first interaction was them up and moving around. Then we sit down for about 5 minutes and we talk a little bit. Then I'll have them turn to a partner. Then I might have them vote with thumbs up or thumbs down. Then I have them, you know, high five another partner. And then I'll do, you know, then maybe I'll do a visual. Like, for example, I had 2 players, two coaches pretend they were a player with an empty tank and a player with a full tank. Yep. And I had them run a drill. And I just wanted to see how different they would look running a drill. Then when we get to the tools, a lot of times I'll put them in groups and I'll say, how would you use this? You know, one of the things I like to do when you do to the what drains the tank and what fills the tank, I'll have them look at all the things that drain and all the things that fill, and I'll give them example. When have you used criticism? When have you used, how would you use, I'm trying to find the slide. Here it is. There it is. I would say, like, you know, when would a coach use criticism and correction? And they would give an example. How would you use truthful and specific praise? So, you know, just get them in a group and talking about this. Mm-hmm. When does a coach ignore a player? You know, talk about that. When does a coach listen? When is it valuable to listen to a player? And then the verbals and nonverbals I have them do together. Stand up, show me non-verbally how you would drain my tank. Stand up, show me verbally, or let me hear you verbally. So I kind of spread it out. Every principle I have them probably move at some point or another. It doesn't mean get up and move out of your seat, but stand up, sit down, try something. Yeah. And I have them talk. I have them talk with either a small group or a partner or somebody in front of them or behind them, or I have them yell out as a group. Every single principle, I have them doing something. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And I just had so many things that I know you said, hey, less is more and all this kind of, like, I give you one example. I have my daughters here. And I said, hey, do you have a stopwatch? You know, you have, you know, something you can keep track of seconds. She said, yeah. She came in the room and I said, okay, here's a scenario, Emma. She said,
You just dribbled down the court and you've thrown the ball away. And I'm going to tell the coaches this, okay? All right, so here's my daughter. It's the last second of the game. She's dribbling down the court. She sees a player wide open under the basket, and she throws it 3 feet over their head out of bounds. Oh, man. And so she runs back down the court, and I said, okay, here's what I'm going to say to her. And I said, okay, Emma, ready? Start the clock. I said, Emma, come on now. You're better than that. You don't want – next time when you're dribbling that fast, bring your feet together, stop, make a good play. Look at, we got to execute that. We need that basket. Come on now, you're better than that. Okay, stop. And then when she stopped the clock, that was 12 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy mackerel, that's a long time to be coaching somebody negatively. Like, she's not on to the next play. And so that was one of those other things I was going to relay is that, not at Penn State. My coaches did a lot of that where they would linger on about a turnover and linger, but you don't know for how long. That's 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, now what would you guys do? The same situation, pass is thrown away. It's a critical point in the game. What do you say now?
Yeah.
That's, that is that's something that has to do more with mastery versus scoreboard, or something like that. So that's a sharing part or something where they can stand up, let's get some feedback, get some input. But you could do that for a while because that's what they need to think about. That's what they need to do. Because that's going to happen in games. That's all. The story is one thing that I told. They're not going to have a 16,000 people in an arena, but they're going to have a moment like that. Okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to? That may be more applicable than actually the other story at Michigan State. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is because you have to understand, the stories that you tell from Penn State, Michigan State, Yale, they are great examples and they give you a lot of credibility. As long as you can take that story and then equate it to coaching youth as well. Somehow bridge the gap so that these coaches sitting there can go, well, I'm not coaching Division I tennis players. I'm not coaching Penn State. How do I bring his story down to my level? And you said it yourself, just turning from the effort story where you started to focus on effort, turning that down and go, how would you focus on effort in your sport? Because it also might not be, I call them like field sport. It might not be a field or ball sport.
Mm-hmm.
I've done cross-country workshops. I've done rowing workshops. And you get sent out to these workshops where you don't have a field or a ball. And all of my coaching and playing experience was with a field or a ball or a court. So all of a sudden now you have to really start thinking about, you can't keep using shooting examples because these coaches are like, it's all about timing and it's all about, even tennis. I mean, that's a different type of sport.
Yep.
So
Yep.
You just have to be aware of the coaches that are in the room. Okay. And talking about like the 10 second or the 12 seconds, I think that's a great example of you being aware of like, wow, I just laid into her for 12 seconds for negativity. Translate that to what principle do we teach so that coaches don't lay into players for 12 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
What's one of the biggest tools that we teach when we're talking about filling emotional tanks?
That's what I was going to say. It's emotional tank, but it's
what's the ratio?
5 to 1. Yeah, 5 to 1. Absolutely.
So instead of saying 12 seconds of negativity, I mean, that would mean 60 seconds of positivity for every 12 seconds of negativity. I mean, that's a 5 to 1 ratio. Right. But bringing it to the slide we have on receivable feedback. We can lay into players as much as we want. We can be as loud as they want. But what we've learned is they're not going to hear it. It's not going to be receivable if we just keep hitting negative after negative after negative. It just starts to turn into mush in their brain because it takes over your thought process. However, if kids are listened to, appreciated, you're appreciating what you've done well, then you can throw in some critical feedback. They'll actually listen to it more.
Yep.
So, just taking your stories and your examples and translating them into PCA language and making that like, hey, let me explain this tool here. Positive charting is exactly what you were explaining when you were talking about your coaches at Penn State that were charting all the negatives. Now they started charting effort. That's positive charting. So you can bring that up as that's a tool. That's a tool that we talk about in PCA. It's a tool that on the slide that says tools to help.
Yeah, that's right.
buddy system, positive charting in the winter. So that story that you told is a perfect example of positive charting before you even knew the term positive charting.
Right.
So, that's, I think, Christian, where as you get to be better and better and do more workshops, you start to find out that everything you've been doing and you've pulled from, it's correct. It's great. Share it, but connect it to a principle, and then it makes your workshop better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
And you're doing it for them. I mean, I'm not doing it for me. You're doing it for them so they can take away tools and tricks and schemes and